7 p.m., and it's Town of Southington Board of Finance meeting. If we'd all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. The roll call, please.
Roll call. Okay. Mrs. Zoni.
Here.
Mr. Morrison.
Here.
Mr. Badoin.
I'm here.
Mr. Pocock Jr.
Here.
Mr. Lebenik.
Out here on the phone.
And then Mr. Chairman, Mr. Leary.
Here. Okay, we have all 6 members present, so we certainly have a quorum. There are no public hearing items tonight, so I'd like to call for the approval of the minutes from our September 14 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any adjustments to the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Aye. So the minutes from September 14th are now official. And now we'll get into the current state of the town. And Jim, so you know, we do revenues versus budget, then we slide right into expenses. If we have a report on capital, we can talk about it, and then we'll go to our subcommittee reports.
Yeah, I sent out in the packet, because I believe we are ready with them, the significant revenue variances and the significant expenditure. I don't want to call them variances at this point, but some items that I think are probably best watched.
It's 5-1 in your packet.
Yeah. It's right after the reports. What I'll do is I'll order these a little bit differently next time, because I'm having trouble finding them myself. So.
Okay.
I'll put all the reports and everything in the minutes, sort of towards the back.
4-1. Hold on.
Where was that?
5-1, Roman numeral 5-1, handwritten. It's right after the minutes.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
so we're back to
So
minutes.
next page.
There you
down
go,
at the end of the
Mr. Larry. You
The
got it right.
691,000.
There you go. Yep.
Got it.
Okay. So it really is telling us that our revenue is 691,000 over budget, which is a good thing, right? When our revenue comes in over budget, as long as we put forth, our conservative best estimate. So I'll just read it then. Prior year taxes 200,000, interest on taxes 120, building permits and fees 75,000 over, interest income 65,000 over, town clerk fees 160,000 over, and then the Kerma equity 71,000. Brings us up to about 691 over budget on revenue, which is.
That's correct. And just a little note on the bottom there is that the most of our large grants that mean anything aren't parceled out actually starting this month, October. So hopefully those will all come in line with where we budgeted, and they will never show up on this report. Hopefully, with negative consequences.
So they should come in line with.
And there is one thing on the prior year taxes, an update. As you recall, we did a tax sale where 7 properties were involved. 2 were redeemed. So what you see there, $200,000, that's part of the 2 that were redeemed.
Yeah.
And that's typical behavior, right? When you're about to do the sale, people.
Well, the sale took place, but they have 6 months to redeem. So we're still in that 6-month period. So there's only 5 properties left. They could be redeemed in the next.
Explain that again. So the sale took place.
When you have a tax sale, what happens is the people bid. If they're the successful bidder within a certain period of time, I think it's 3 days, they have to put the rest of the money in. The money's held. They don't get the deed until 6 months after the sale date, because the property owner has the right to redeem. So therefore, during that time period, if you bid on it, you're collecting the 18% interest rate. So it's the money you have plus you're collecting 18%. If the people redeem, they have to give you all the money back.
So that's your incentive to take a shot on the purchase.
Exactly.
And if all goes well, then you own it.
After 6 months and 1 day, the marshal, or in this case, the attorney who handles the case, will hand you the deed.
Okay. And let me understand that completely though. So if the owner comes back and says, you know what, I can't let that property go. I'm in a good place now. Let me pay the tax. They pay the tax, and the bidder gets the 18% on that
That
for
is
the time
correct.
period.
There's tax, the fees of the sale plus all the interest, and if they come up with that, pay the attorney who did the transaction for us, then the deed then does not get transferred.
Okay, everybody's made whole.
Certainly, the people who bid on it get their 18% interest.
Yeah.
The town gets its taxes, and the person gets the property.
Okay, no, it's clear. Everybody
does that happen?
get that?
Two just happened.
Oh, just two.
Between the time of the sale date, the auction date, and today, we had 2 of the 7 redeemed.
It's actually, it would be 9% interest because it's half the year, give or take. I'm sure they'd count up the dates and compute it that way, but
And that's the interest on the tax sale amount?
Correct. Whatever the taxes that are owed, whatever the bid number is. So whoever bought it for X amount of dollars, because that could be more than the taxes,
Right.
Because they put
Right.
that money down. That money starts earning 18% interest the day of the transaction.
Interesting. That's good to learn. Thanks.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, just one question on 71. I'm just curious, Mark or Jim, I think we budgeted 50 and it came in at 121, so significantly over. Was there a driver?
The driver is not based just on Southington. It's based on the risk of the entire pool. Remember, this is a town-owned agency, KERMA. So if they have a very good year, then we then get a profit share kind of check. Because we have our LAP and our workers' comp with them, we get a bigger check than if you had one or the other.
Okay, so it just happened to be particularly, I can't recall the history on this, but it happened to be particularly big. As a percentage of what we budgeted, it was significantly more, which is good.
That's good.
that's correct.
And just a
Okay.
just a
Okay.
pat on the back for our people too. Our claims were very much down too, so it helped both ways.
Thank you.
One quick question, Jim. Are we actually for Mark as well? Are we starting to see any slowdown in building permits and fees? I mean, they've been red hot for a while. Are we starting to see
Not so far.
Not so
No,
far?
that is it's a very good point. We do watch that as a trigger.
Yeah.
And actually, it even starts before that sometimes with the planning and zoning fees,
Oh, right, yeah.
because sometimes the planning and zoning is the precursor for something that's going to generate a large building fee. So yeah, but we do. I do watch those, and
You'll see residential building permits slow down.
Yeah.
Because that's starting to slow down a little bit.
That is, okay.
But according to our building official, the commercial and the industrial is red hot still.
yeah, the revenues were quite solid and a little bit more than expected for the month of September. So.
Great. Thank you.
And the expenses, Jim?
Expenses is on the next sheet.
Oh, did I
Just
close it?
some calculation that I did.
Could you just do the overview?
Yeah, that's just the
Close it.
the overview on this is just some items that we would be watching, and it's the usual suspects, I would call them, that your folks I'm sure are familiar with, and it's the overtime budgets, which are very hard for me to calculate. So what I did was I just did a strict calculation of if I did an average of what those 4 line items are spending on overtime through September 30th, and if that continued the average throughout the fiscal year, where would we end up? So that little note, for example, and it's police, central dispatch, fire, and highway / parks. And you can see that the year is 25% over, obviously, just for the first 3 months, and you're seeing how much they've spent so far in overtime. And the very last column is if the weekly average continues, and I was kind of careful the way I read that because I don't know what their
So if they
overtime's
were
gonna be.
25 at 25, they'd be right on track.
They'd be right on track, and,
Okay.
and it wouldn't show up, or less than that, and it wouldn't be showing up on this sheet at all.
Except in the first 3 months of the year, there's vacancies.
Correct, we do see
You'd
that. Yep.
expect it to see it a little bit.
Correct.
But it's not even.
So,
It's
yeah,
not-
yeah,
over
yeah.
26 pay periods, it's not even.
Okay.
So you're correct. So a lot of this overtime would be for highway, not only vacations, but remember all our road jobs are being done during
Oh,
the
there's
summertime.
Yeah.
yeah, of course, so that too.
But that's why I kind of
Yeah, I
I
understand.
tried to temper the look at it by saying if this weekly average continues,
Got it.
which it won't, but hopefully it doesn't get any worse. And like Mark said, if it does come down a little bit in certain areas, that number we should actually see shrink in future months. But
Do we do a transfer, like the road job would be, if the highway department is paving a road, I assume they build into that cost, the cost of police, right?
Correct.
And then the police go on their side in their budget and they charge it.
That's not overtime.
That's not overtime.
No, that's
private
called
duty.
special duty. Yeah,
Okay.
It's not private duty, it's special duty, which is a totally different.
So overtime would be for an emergency situation, a water main break or,
Well, no, if we have a road project and our guys are working on it and they work in the summertime till 5, 6 o'clock with the sun, that's overtime to get the road working. Not all road jobs end at 3:30.
no, but wouldn't the road job be covered in the cost of the project on the highway side? You know, and wouldn't it be included in the expenses of the highway department?
They're overtime. I'm missing your question.
The police overtime, only.
No, I'm talking about the highway overtime would be part of that.
Right.
The police, we don't have police quote unquote overtime on town highway projects.
Okay.
That's not, the police aren't on overtime, they're on special duty, which is not the same subject. Overtime for police will be, if they're working overtime, someone takes a vacation.
All right, this is
yeah.
normal overtime. This isn't road job overtime.
No,
then.
because that's
Okay.
a whole separate deal.
Right, understood.
and
Separate fund.
And it's a different, I was just going to say that, thank you. It's
Okay.
a different bookkeeping fund, so.
Yeah, I was trying to get it. I just maybe didn't use the right words, but.
And is
yeah,
offset with the billing to the entity that's hiring the police officers.
Right, so it could
for
be
that
the
year.
town
Correct,
paying the special duty fund that in turn pays the police for their work.
correct.
So this overtime has nothing to do with that.
That is
This
correct.
is just
Regular
workers being retained, trained, covering another sick leave. I know the police department has a million codes
Yeah.
because we had a presentation a few years back.
I know the police, obviously, there's one, the fire department, one person could be out without replacement. Once they feed that second person, they have to have somebody in.
Yeah.
The police are a little bit more than that, but during the summertime, as Tony just mentioned, sometimes you have a bunch of people on vacation,
Okay.
and then obviously you have to cover them.
So again, not road job stuff, but just
separate.
regular police, doing police work.
Regular, yeah.
Okay.
No, but Jim, this is helpful because every year, same thing. Overtime is a driver of
Yep.
And as you do this, every month you do this, it gets more accurate because you're going to have months falling off behind, so you get more precise numbers.
But you'll
That's
see
correct.
transfers. You'll see transfers from police and fire. That's going to be obvious. You're going to see transfers
Yeah.
into the overtime account from their other line items.
That's normal.
Yeah, that's normal.
But I guess we'll understand the cyclicality of it as you do this. It's good.
Yep.
Okay, so bring us back. Anything on capital projects?
No, I sent that along with the package saying that we have not even closed out and brought forward the new balances yet. We're starting on that process. Amelia and I have just actually started it, and she's a couple days a week, so we'll be hitting that again next week and then bringing those balances forward and then having something to report on. So I'm hoping to have that.
Well, we're trying to get the audit done.
Yeah,
the most
that's-
important thing right now.
that's what we're doing.
So I spoke with Jim today, and I said that let's get the audit done first, and if we give a full presentation in January on the capital, that should be.
Yeah, that might be the route that gets the most efficient.
Okay, subcommittee reports. Sewer committee, Mr. Morrison?
Yes. We haven't met since the last Board of Finance meeting. We meet tomorrow. So nothing to report.
Public Works, Mr. Pocock, Mrs. Zoni?
Yes, just for the public to know, the leaf season schedule for pickups has been posted already. It's on the town's website on the Highway Department page, so it's easy to find. Zone 1 begins October 31. Zone 2 begins November 7th. Zone 3 is November 14th. Zone 4 is November 21. And yes, for those who ask, this schedule holds even if the leaves don't begin to fall. We can't control that. And second was the Marion Avenue over Humiston Bridge. The bids have started to come in, and the lower bid is going to Dayton Construction for $1,188,000. So that project is finally going to begin to get going. For the EV additions, they were looking now at adding some at Canal Street and South Center. And anything to do with the green, it was waiting till after Apple Harvest Festival, which is now over, so things will start to happen there. Some of the Christmasing and holiday season decorations will go up. There are some renovations to some of those, and some power washing is going to be done in conjunction with that. And the funniest one of all is that the bids for snow removal are starting to come in as well. And that.
There is one thing, if I can add to that.
Sure.
If anyone listening out there, and if you please talk it up, if you know anybody, we're looking for temporary laborers to help us with the leaf season. We're going to be paying at a minimum of $15 and possibly a little more. Please check out the town's website because we'd like to get a temporary. I guarantee you that it's at least 5, if not 6 weeks of work, and I guarantee you it's outside in the beautiful fresh air. So please just. You're not selling this, Ed, for me. So if you have a friend who has people over the age of 18 who want to apply for this, 18 to physically able, as old as you can be, if you wish to do that, the town would very much appreciate it because obviously we'd rather hire temporaries than the contract that Mrs. Zoni just talked about, which is our temporary laborers, which we hire a third-party contractor for, which is substantially more than that. We have less control. So if you know anybody out there or here, please have them go to the town website and apply for the job.
So, Mark, what would that job entail, probably?
You would not be operating the truck. You would be operating a rake.
Behind the truck?
Behind
you
the
mean?
truck.
Like you
Working with
scooping
town.
it into
Working with town
the
staff.
vacuum?
Yeah, under the supervision of town
Okay.
staff. Yeah.
Maybe we should put it on Silent Talks. Throw it out there.
Oh, not that one, I didn't.
Well-
We did,
Hey, Mark,
yeah.
Yes, Jeff.
oh, if you include pizza, I know one board of finance member that may be interested.
I don't know if you have. We do it during the day, Joe. Will your boss allow you to do it?
I'll figure it out.
Okay. Well then, for $15 an hour, I'll buy you the pizza.
Sorry, I forgot one. The other good thing was that one of the final paperworks did come through for Plantsville renovation. Finally.
Thank you. Open space, Mr. Pocock?
I don't have much to report. Working on a couple of things. Excuse me. To a private buyer. And the other thing I want to promote is Paul Shapinsky, the chairman, has started a little program where we got these little fish
It's cute.
things in different locations of our things, so people do get to know our properties, and it's listed out. It's very handy, and you can go on the town website to get them, but it's quite appealing. They're hanging in different areas of the trails. That's about all we got right now.
Okay. Well, thanks. And yeah, hopefully people enjoy Mr. Chaplinsky's scavenger hunt or whatever. You found one?
I know.
I confess I took the Cub Scouts on a nature hike at Crescent Lake and went all around, we picked up litter, we did the things we do, but I wasn't aware that they were there, so I wasn't
They
looking
weren't
for
up
them.
there yet. That's
We didn't
why-
see any, but we did leave it
working on
greener and cleaner than we found it, and the kids appreciate it.
Apple
These are
harvest.
little teeny kids, those Cub Scout kids. Okay, Self-Insurance Committee, Mr. Bedoin, Mr. Lebenik.
We didn't meet, right, Joe?
No, I think
Okay.
we just have results go through August unless
Right. So we didn't get
You want to go
did-
run with it, Kevin?
yeah, no, I was just looking. So we didn't have the results in this packet, right?
No,
Okay.
or none of that packet. I didn't know if we were going to wait for a
You
self.
have the last budget, Kevin, or do you want me to do it?
No, I don't have it with me. So
I know there's a meeting next week.
I think through. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jim.
No, I'm sorry, Joe. I know there's a self-insurance committee next week, next Wednesday, here at 5:30. I sent out an email this afternoon to the members to poll them with regards to a quorum. So once that's done, obviously those results will be in your next packet through the end of September.
okay.
If you
I could get them out. I could get them out to the.
Through. I don't think September's in the year, right? But through August we had a little over 3.6 budgeted, and we were 3.2, so $400,000 under, just slightly below prior. Obviously, it's just 2 months in, and August seems to be unusually low. So, Jim, I don't know, we'll probably jump into that at our meeting.
Yeah, and Joe Spurgeon, we consulted, who's our consultant, obviously, for the self-insurance plan. We spoke to Joe about that, and he looked into it for us as well, just to see if there was anything that was weird out there that maybe Anthem had not processed yet, but there was nothing to his knowledge that came about. But we are also done with the month of September on the health claims summaries, so I can send those out to you folks. I didn't know what the protocol was. If it went to the self-insurance committee first, and then...
No, usually, no. Amelia will put the most current one in our packet.
Okay.
Every time, regardless if we met or not, because sometimes our meetings will get canceled.
Yep.
Or postponed as well.
So if it is a month behind, that's okay.
That's
okay.
fine.
That's what I'll do for the next packet. Yep.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything on economic strike, Mr. Morrison?
No, we haven't met since the last Board of Finance.
Actually,
Okay.
I could, there is something on strike, Tony. It came from this was the Economic Strike Committee recommended, took a little while to get to the council, recommended a tax abatement ordinance, which is where if an industrial person wants to come in and put in town infrastructure, i.e. roads, drainage, sidewalks, whatever, there's a tax abatement for that. So what will happen is that person, if they want to do an industrial subdivision, they can put the road in, and then we give them a tax abatement for 5 years worth of their taxes. So if it's more than that, they won't get that part of it. But for 5 years, and they could use either the property that they're currently developing or a factory or any industrial use they have in Southington they can use for the tax abatement. So that was
So up to the amount they expended on the improvement?
So this we had one of these about 6 or 7 years ago. It sunsetted, so there's some interest in it again. So Mr. Perillo and the strike committee brought it forth to the council, and it was approved last night.
Hey, Mark, I got a question. Is there any update on the Rite Aid building on Queen Street? Because it seems like a good property. It's been vacant for months.
It's going to be Cumberland Farms.
Cumberland Farms?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it should be being raised as we speak. The building that was only, it's like a football
Yeah, it looks
stadium.
beautiful.
It was a football stadium.
Yeah.
You know the ones where it's only 10 years old and they knock it down to put a new football stadium up? It's similar to that building, although it's probably a little more than 10 years old, but it's being raised and putting up a Cumberland Farms gas station.
Oh, they're going to...
Yes.
They got the equipment sitting right there,
Yeah,
ready to
I
go.
see the equipment there, but
Seems like they have a
Nothing.
footprint of what they want.
They just want, okay. They won't
Start anew.
They won't
that would be
start
nice,
it,
though.
Yeah,
The
it's
newer
going to be nice.
Cumberland
Right off the
Farms are
highway.
nice.
It's going to look similar to the one I assume on West
Yeah,
Street.
that's a good. That's a nice one.
You would think that anything would succeed there. It's right off both directions on
I
the
don't
highway,
get it.
but everything that's gone there, the last several items have not lasted that long.
No.
The Rite Aid was a Chevy dealership there a long
Well,
time
there
ago.
was-
There
Years,
was a-
right?
That was
A liquor-
successful, but-
Southington Chevrolet, yeah. And the
Liquor,
Jaguar dealer next door was
Jaguar.
turned into a liquor store.
liquors, yeah, the liquor, and then it was
That seems to be doing very well.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Yeah,
one
and the
more-
furniture store turned into, another store, but
No, Mark, one more property. The chips. Any news
don't
on
know.
what that's going to be? Okay.
But that's obviously the pad. Will
That's a
be-
great location, too.
Yeah, the pad's going to be marketed for whatever it's going to be used
has
for.
has that closed? Chips
Yeah.
up on West Street.
Yeah.
Wow.
But they're building something else up there.
Well, there's also some other pad sites,
Yeah.
but I don't know who's actually going into the chip site.
That's another prime location. Awesome location.
all right.
Set it for 18 million. Just
That
like
was
the last
a big building, yeah.
The subcommittee type reports, investment committee.
I don't have anything more to add than what Jim spoke about.
Interest, the
Yeah.
higher interest. Maybe that's the only plus of our situation, right?
That's the plus side, yeah.
But it'll never offset the negative side. We have to be very
For bonding. No.
careful, right, when all these bids come in for plowing and and even pretty soon we have to hedge the. I don't want to digress too much here, but
Gas?
pretty soon we have to hedge the fuel, right, the diesel and the gas.
We're talking about December of '23, so next budget cycle, we'll have to start hedging
So-
that. It's only half the year covered in next budget cycle.
Inflation
Can
is
we
one of
do it
those
in
things that
between? Like
We've
if
already
gas
met.
is where to
We've
come
already
down?
met. Yeah, we've already met with our energy consultants, and they are working to extend it.
Yeah, I mean, nobody really.
They try and figure out the best time.
Yeah.
We do have some time to
Good
work
luck
on.
trying to figure that out when you have a war.
Yeah.
But
You know.
the good news is interest rates went up, so we get interest income. The bad news is interest rates went up, so our borrowing will get affected, and then inflation is going to push the cost of everything up. Some 8 to 10%. Where I don't know, and in time, right? We have to watch for that.
Correct.
And then of course, if it subsides, we got to watch how much will it subside, and will the costs ever go back to their normal? Is it a case like gas where it's $2.50 a gallon, goes up to $5, comes back to $4, and we celebrate? We got to watch. This is going to be a
No, that's
uncertain time as we put the budget together. That's
yeah,
all.
especially gas, because the Fed has no control over gas and oil around the world. That's what they can't control.
Yeah, we're seeing the interest rate increases on the longer term side of the amortization of debt when we sell bonds. So yeah, we're seeing it there as well.
So we got to watch per our policy, our debt service. Okay, that was investment committee. Any questions on investment committee stuff? Board of Fire Commissioners, Mr. Pocock, Mr. Bedoin, anything doing there?
The only thing is, the only expenditure was some repair work on the ladder truck's motor, but that's the only thing dealing with money. Other than that, they real busy. As far as I'm concerned, they're everywhere. And I saw them out doing the schools, which was a nice safety measure.
I was a little confused. I have to go back and check to see if I sent an email to you, Jim. On the fire trucks, we'd seen some money come in for insurance damages, and I wanted to just sort the claim with the damages. And I thought I sent an email, but I can't say if I thought about it or actually did it, or it's sitting in my drafts. But what I wanted to know for this board, for everybody, which fire trucks were damaged, high level, how they were damaged, and what the dollar amount of the damage was. Because I was getting confused over, and maybe I called Mr. Pocock on it, but I was getting confused over which trucks got damaged, what was the amount, because we saw a couple insurance claims come through. And I just wanted some.
There was a very big one on Rescue 1.
That was the new.
That was the one where the lady hit the vehicle.
Yes.
And that was a
one we had to send back.
That was a big
200 and something thousand.
A lot of money, but that was obviously paid for by her insurance company. The other one was a damage which was self-inflicted. We can get more information on that one. But that's one we had to send to Kerma, our insurance company, for that one.
Were there only two?
The two that I'm aware of. I'm not aware of any other.
Can we just find out how many there were, like in the last, let's just say the last year, put a time frame on it, and just the last year fire truck damage, how it happened, and what the cost was, just so we know. Because I thought there was some confusion here, right?
You'll know about them obviously when they come back to
Yeah.
you. But yeah, we never give you the facts of how it happened. We just tell you that the money came in.
But just high level. We don't need every detail, but
I got it.
Yep, no problem.
we're not micromanaging, just trying to understand the costs. Things get damaged. Any other committee reports? Any board communications? We see this governance letter from CLA. Who's CLA? Oh.
Yeah, I slipped that under there because I thought it was the best category, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I didn't know if Amelia had sent this out to you folks yet. This is pretty much a standard operating procedure type of letter that auditing firms send out to all their clients under what they call their statement on auditing standards. And I'm sure, Chairman John, you see these
Okay.
probably all the time.
Like a scoping, mapping and scoping?
It's basically what it is, but this board is in charge of the governance of who hires the auditors, et cetera, setting the mill rate, things of that nature. Some towns it's the town council. Some towns, believe it or not, it's the chief administrative or chief fiscal officer. But so the letter under their statement on auditing standards, which changed about 6 or 7 years ago, says that the body that is in charge of that has to be informed of basically what happens, what the audit's for, what they're going to be looking for, how they're going to do it, and also to let you know that they are there if you wish to contact them. I mean, and it's got that sort of on page 5 or 6 of that as well. So, and it also identifies the partner in charge of the engagement with her contact information, et cetera, et cetera. It's all standard. I did not know if Amelia had sent those out to you folks, so I wanted to make sure you had it. And if you don't mind, when we do the minutes, if we make sure that Angela knows to put that the board has been presented with that letter. in case the auditing firm wants to see that in the minutes of the Board of Finance. This way, they're not supposed to take anyone's word for it, you know what I mean? So this way, if it shows up in your minutes that it was presented to you and there was no questions or problems, then great.
I know they call, I don't know if they call every one of us, but I get a call every year about the risk assessment. Am I aware of any issues? I think maybe we all may
Yeah.
get a call. I'm not sure.
That's probably, that's more of their due diligence.
Yeah.
Auditing standards have also changed tremendously, and this is not just for municipal governments or state governments. This is also for the corporate world as well. People who are, what would you call finance or audit subcommittees of the board of directors, they would be getting similar communications as well. So, lots happened since the last 10 years. There was public accounting firms are awesome. They do great jobs, but there was a few guys who just let things slide, and they hurt their profession. So this is an attempt by the AICPA to make sure that they stay on track, especially when it comes to objectivity.
Yeah, it makes sense that they would call it. They haven't called me, but it's you. That
I didn't know
asked
who
if
they
there's-
call. I know I got the call. I would always answer it.
Right, and asked if we had any risk assessment on the town, because we're like it's like us. If you ask that,
They interrogate me too, so
Right.
So maybe it's just certain.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to know who they call, because I always thought until this moment that maybe
No.
they called every one of
They
us
just do.
to get maybe they should, because you could have differences of, everybody may just want to say, because they go through a series of questions. Are you aware of any fraud? Are you aware of any of this or that? And they go through a standard set of questions. And I think if you have any advice, you should tell them they should really call every member. I always thought they did, but it would just be a better
It
cross-section.
would make sense. It's like us
Yeah.
doing
What they're
examining a company, and you talk to the board, because the board members are third party. They don't work for the company, and you would just ask them like this.
Well,
what risk do you see in a company, or ask John, what risk do you see in the
Yeah.
town?
Yeah.
Because that's just something they could. Experts.
And with the
Think-
premise, though, the chair is one member among six. It's not, I can't speak for six. So when they ask me, I give them my own opinion. But I thought they were asking the other five. So maybe they just want to expand their risk assessment questioning to every member of the board. I think that would make sense.
Or at least you could send us an email and say, do you?
Yeah.
I'll get back to.
I will
That
contact.
would work too.
Yeah.
I'll talk to the
Usually
partner.
it's done by phone call, but
sure.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think it's another way of helping them to establish the level of objectivity. If they're catching things that, they know. We know each other. We might be related. Who knows? You know what I mean? They want to make sure that the objectivity has got to be the number one priority for audit firms.
And I think it's important, while we're on this, it's just important to note that their job isn't to find, necessarily isn't to find fraud. It's to make sure the financial statements are properly stated within a reasonableness of materiality. Stuff is booked on the right line, liabilities aren't understated, assets aren't overstated. But if somebody absconded with $5,000 or $10,000, they wouldn't notice it. So nobody should think that because we get a proper, clean audit, so to speak, no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, it doesn't mean everything is perfect. It means financial statements are properly stated. Also, if we wanted to buy all Range Rovers for the police department, as long as we accounted for them properly, that's not an audit problem.
That's correct.
As long as we account for it properly, inefficiencies they're not here to find either.
Yep.
That's more of an operational audit. So we just have to know what this audit means. I think sometimes when the public or certain members on other boards hear it, and they say, oh, we're doing great, and they think we're doing great across everything, across fraud risk, across efficiency, that there is no improprieties. I mean, that's not really the scope. It's just at a level of materiality, no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, and a couple of recommendations is what we normally see.
Now, Jim, do they also, and I think they do this, the other thing outside of looking at the financials is they talk to the department heads and they basically see what type of oversight they have within their own department, which is important.
Yes,
Which
they do.
goes to controls and procedures. And that's, like you said, it's not looking for fraud. It's just looking that there's a proper oversight being, within each department, which I'm
Correct.
pretty sure that's part of their
That is part of
control
what they
testing,
do.
even
They
though-
test transactions as well, and they follow that transaction from the point of where it's ordered, let's say requisitioned, if you will, through the purchase order, through the invoicing, through the approval of that in every step of the way. Double checking, of course, because that's written in the charter and or other procedures, making sure that those are followed. And it's on a test basis, and that's to establish or to determine in their minds if there is a proper internal control structure in place. But like John said, not that can't be manipulated, or there could be collusion involved of two or more people to sort of work around things like that, but that's not going to show up in anybody's audit anywhere. I don't care if you audit every day of the year. But they will test those internal controls, and they will report on there if they see weakness in there or for the availability for that to really happen, at a higher level.
And what they're looking for, too, is you'd kind of segregation of duties, because most towns, departments don't have a gigantic staff where they have 2 or 3 people looking over, someone's with the procedures, but they look for segregation of duties for individuals, what they do, and
that's correct. And one of the best segregation of duties there is when departments are monitoring their line items in their expenditure budgets. And if you think you spent $5,000 and your report says $5,500, get on the phone and say what's going on, or they can actually see their detail now. So it's something that they can stay on very frequently and resolve in a heartbeat if someone makes an honest mistake posting something to the wrong account or something like that. That's a great internal control procedure, because it's like, if they overspend a line item, they got to come to him, then to this board, and ultimately possibly to the council as well. So that's an internal blessing of the town charter, if you will.
Yep.
Not too many people call you guys blessings, but I will until my probation's over.
Okay.
Boy, tough crowd.
Any more board communications from any member? Okay. Moving into public communications, I'll just make a note that there is no one from the public here. Anything on the budget or any strategy items?
Really, everything's going to be standstill until after the election. We see where that heads out. Start in January, see where the governor, whoever that may be, will dictate where the money's going to come from, and see what the state looks like. Right now, quote unquote, they do have cash. Obviously, they have massive debt too, but they do have cash on hand. So I don't anticipate major cuts to the towns at this point, but it's still early in the game.
Yep. Okay. Getting into the administrative business, I'm just looking at the consent agenda. Okay, it looks like we can take them all together. So there are 8 of them. I'll read them, and then if somebody would make a motion, and we could do them all together. And then once again, for all the folks watching, the consent agenda is basically a list of items where the money's already been received by the town, and all we're doing is appropriating that money back to the department and the line item for which it was spent. A perfect example of that is if somebody makes a donation of $100 to the town for youth services, the town gets the money and we give it to the youth services department on the appropriate account. And that's all we're doing here. But the money's already been received, so it's not what they call it a consent agenda, because it's just standard business. The money's been received. There's nothing really to say yes or no on. So I'll read the items, and then we'll take them. I'll ask for a motion on them all. A, an appropriation $1,836, fire department extra duty pay. B, appropriation $127,964, fire department FEMA, the AFG grant. C, an appropriation $100 to the police department for the DARE program. D, an appropriation $6,252 to the police department for loss damage of a vehicle, an insurance claim. E, appropriation $14,136 youth services, an enhancement grant for program supplies. An appropriation $3,000 youth services, an enhancement grant for temporary seasonal staff. An appropriation $6,000 to youth services JRB grant, support and enhancement. And the last one is an appropriation $2,000 to youth services for a JRB grant for temporary seasonal wages.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
A motion's made, a second by Mr. Pocock. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll say it's 6-0. And now we have three manager memos. We'll take them one at a time. An appropriate, this is consent agenda items. They all are.
Well, they're not.
No, two of them. One of them.
One of them is for ed purposes.
Yeah,
one- yeah.
appropriation $500 to the calendar house for overtime from the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the $500 overtime.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? One abstains.
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Pocock abstains because he does some part-time work at the calendar house. He's always abstained from anything to do with it. Appropriation, $9,969, Emergency Management Fund, Rec Park Playscape from the ARPA grant.
Mr. Chair, if I
Yep,
may,
go ahead.
we're in year 3/4 of the 5-year Parks Plan. This is part of that Parks Plan, and so is the next one. And they come out of the ARPA money because that was part of it.
Yep.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Aye.
My apologies. My
What?
my mistake. I need a voice vote.
Yeah, we need a vote.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
okay.
I apologize.
Oh, you mean you need a roll call vote?
Yeah,
Roll
roll call
call.
vote.
Up.
Yep.
Mrs. Zoni,
Yes.
Mr. Morrison,
Yes.
Mr. Bodwin,
Yep.
Bedoin.
Okay.
Sorry.
Now I can say yes.
Now after 25 years, yeah. Mr. Pocock Jr.,
Yes.
Mr. Lebenik,
Wait for it.
Yes.
and Chairman Leary.
Yes.
That roll call is unanimous.
Okay, next one requiring a roll call vote too is an appropriation for $21,475 Emergency Management Fund from the ARPA to Panthorn Park lacrosse drainage. Again, part of the Parks Plan. Any motion for it?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Mrs.
got-
Wanted to
Zoni,
make a
Wait, we got discussion.
I don't- Mark.
What?
But, I mean, this is really important because that place drowns down there and a lot of times we use it, so it's really nice to see this.
Yeah, we couldn't get full use of it,
right.
and so this has been part of the Parks Plan for the last bunch of years to do this. Remember correctly, some of you probably remember, actually, the Parks Plan is probably around 4 or 5 years old. We've been funding it, originally using the undesignated fund balance, but we switched it over to ARPA last year, so that's what we're doing. Ed is exactly right. They've been very patient with us, and now they'll be able to get full use of the.
No, that's, okay, we had a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote.
Mrs. Zoni,
Yes.
Mr. Morrison,
Yes.
Mr. Bedoin,
Yes.
Mr. Pocock Jr.,
Yes.
Mr. Lebenik,
Yes.
Chairman Leary.
Yes.
Unanimous, 6-0.
Okay. Just want to make a comment regarding these ARPA funds. These were funds from the federal government that came down during the COVID time, and the town, we didn't ask for them, right? We didn't apply for them. They came to us, and there were a certain set of rules, and we applied them to various projects, projects we already knew about because we're somewhat proactive here, and we have a 5-year plan, so we just applied the ARPA funds to the 5-year plan. So this was money from the federal government that came to us. Every time we get money from the federal government that comes to us, it helps keep our taxes down because it's stuff that we would do anyway, just that we're doing it with federal money. In the big picture, is that Southington's a net taxpayer. We pay taxes. We pay them federally, we pay them statewide, and we pay them locally. So this is just us getting back a share of what Southington citizens do pay on net. We are a net taxpayer to the federal government, net taxpayer, again, to the state, and of course, we're the 100% taxpayer locally. So this is just a chance. Some of that money came back to us. We put it to use. Sometimes there's cases made, and people will say, well, if you don't you don't want the money, then reject it. Okay, but you could certainly, I guess you could reject it. But in taking it, we're paying it anyway. We are taxpayers to the federal government. So to take this, we get a little bit back, and we use it here in town to offset property tax. It makes sense, and that's exactly what happened here. So people should know, watching that for the foreseeable future. So a lot of our projects that we would have done anyway are being paid for by these federal funds, and that helps to keep what you have seen was a low mill rate over the last few years. It's just one of the items. So
Well, it's more like tax avoidance, if you will, in the future, because and that's very hard for anyone to see. And people don't see the taxes that they don't have to pay or would be paying if these projects were paid for either through the budget process, through the manager's budget, or probably through the bonding with interest. So it's difficult to see what you don't pay. So
Right.
I agree with you 100%, Mr. Chairman.
any other?
No, plus it's a
comments on
benefit
that?
because it helps fast track some projects that could take, maybe we're going to do 3 years from now. Now we can
Correct.
do it today.
Yeah, or the whole
So it
thing.
benefits
Instead of
the
a
town.
little bit at the
Yeah.
park, we do the whole thing.
And
Yeah, like the
also,
fire
if
truck.
we were to refuse the funds, somebody else would get them instead.
Yeah. They're not
Yeah.
going back to the U.S. Treasury. They're going to be doled
Somebody's
out to
getting-
somebody else.
Yeah.
I wouldn't allow them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we wouldn't refuse.
I don't think you got to worry about that with this guy.
But you do have to answer the question. There are people out there who say, I don't want national debt to go up. I'm not happy with all the spending, and you could name various aspects of spending. Everybody can pick and choose what they would want to spend on and what they would roll their eyes on the spending of the national government. We're not here to do that, but I think we have to realize that we do pay federal taxes, and getting something back, it's only our right if it's coming our way to take it. I mean, to reject it would be a real problem because we'd be paying for it anyway and not getting it. And our town manager would really want us to take it, right? So you got to see this as
Win-win.
we have to take our piece if something like this comes down. We didn't seek it, we didn't ask for it, we didn't legislate it, but we're certainly going to take it.
Our obligation is to use it wisely, and I think this board and the town council have chosen to do that.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. This is what you've just said, Mr. Chairman, Town Manager. The only thing I would caution is to think about is the federal government has the ability to manipulate our economy. And it's done that by printing $3 trillion worth of money. Okay, you print it without goods or services or productivity, you're going to get inflation. And our inflation has been caused by a couple of other things. That's a big part of it. And other countries have done it, and they're suffering from high inflation as well. So I think we ought to sort of say, okay, we know what happened, we know why it did happen, but think about the consequences of printing that kind of money.
We have no control over the federal
I said
So
that.
we don't need a
I said
campaign
that-
speech.
I said that.
No,
to
it's
begin
not-
with. I said that to begin with. I said it's
Yeah.
one thing that we have to think about, going forward. That's what's going to happen, and it's worth thinking about. It's worth thinking about how we react with It's the state can't print money, the feds can, and whole country.
Okay, any more comments on the overall from our
Just,
meeting?
Mr. Chairman, if
Yes,
I
sir.
may just recoup, self-insurance, I'll include with the next packet to you folks next month, no matter where we are, which fire trucks were damaged, the amount to fix them, et cetera, and a little explanation as to what. And CLA from the partner, and are they going to be contacting more people? Is that in their sort of protocol rather than just a chairman? Is that all?
Yeah, no,
All
that
set
seemed
on
like
that.
it was
Okay.
fair. Okay.
Sounds good, thank you.
Okay, we'll go for our favorite motion at 7:49.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Do I have to take a roll call?
Okay, all
for
in
that?
favor?
Okay,
Aye. All right, thank you. Thank you, Joe.
thank
Hope
you.
feel better. Hope everything is well.
Good night.
Hey, Jeff.
Bye.